I was doing a lot of stuff now with Pride, and Yukino Honda, she was a booker at the time. She calls me up. She says, "You know Mark, you represent Mark Coleman, right?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "We'd like to have Mark come to Pride." I said, "Great. As you know, we've been bugging you about this." "Oh, yes, but he needs to come do a pro wrestling match." I said, "Pride's going in the pro wrestling business?" And she goes, "Oh, no, no." So you know where this is going, obviously. "We need him to put over Takada. Will he do that?" I'm like, I don't know. It's a good question. So we start to talk. I bring it to Mark. Mark was in a big, he had lost his UFC deal. He was still at the time considered probably the most dominant heavyweight ever, but he was hurting for money. Those guys didn't get paid back in those days. And when they did, they spent what they made, so Mark needed money. I had him put up in an apartment in San Clemente where my wife and I were living, actually in the same complex. Mark Coleman, Mark Kerr, and Tom Howard all together. That was fun, let me tell you. That was the beginning of the production on the Smashing Machine, when everybody really started to descend into a personal hell together. Oh, dude, it was a time. Wow. So Mark said, "Yeah, maybe, if the deal's right." So I go back and we started talking about the money. We didn't really get anywhere. And she says, "Well, we'd like to meet him," because they wanted to ask him face to face, "Will you do this?" They said, "Rick, we believe you. You've been very truthful with us, but we want to be able to look him in the eye." I said, "I understand." So we made a meeting. They couldn't make that meeting. Then they called me the next day. I was on my way out to a big family dinner, and I couldn't make the meeting they wanted to schedule. And they said, "Well, is it okay if we meet with Mark if you're not there?" And I said, "Yes, that's fine. Just don't talk money. Let me handle that part of it." Of course. Yukino said, "Yeah." Mark said, "Yeah." So Mark calls me a few hours later. He goes, "You won't believe this, Bass." He would call me Bass. "Bass, you won't believe this. They offered me $300,000. And I'm like, "No, they didn't." There's no way. Because they didn't have that kind of money back then. That would have been an unheard of payoff, even putting over Takada. Well, I don't know if you've been to Japan much or have much experience doing business with them, but they put their commas in different places than we do. So I went back to Mark and I said, "Mark, let me talk to them, but there's no way." I call him back. He goes, "I already figured it out." He goes, "It's 30,000, right?" I go, "Yep," because they put the comma under 30. And they put a comma in 300 when they meant 30. So his balloon kind of deflated. I go, "Mark, let me see what I can do." So I call Yukino and I say, "Well, he thought you offered $300,000," and she laughed. And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "No, the offer's 30." I go, "Yukino, I know that, but he got so blown up over this. He already wasn't like that hot about doing it. So we were able to change the deal from 30,000 to 60,000.